If you love podcasting as much as I do, you may be considering starting your own. Starting a podcast has been one of the best decisions I have ever made, but getting started can feel overwhelming. Buzzsprout is the easiest and most professional way to start a podcast. Buzzsprout has helped over 100,000 people launch their own podcasts, including me. Buzzsprout will launch your show on all of the major podcast platforms like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play, to name a few. You also get a podcast website, audio players that can be dropped into other websites, and stats of who is listening, and so much more. Buzzsprout also publishes blog posts, podcasts, and YouTube videos every week. They are great tools and have useful information from expert podcasters. To start your own podcast and get a $20 Amazon gift card, follow the link in our show notes. This lets Buzzsprout know that I sent you, and it supports my show. Buzzsprout, the easiest way to start a podcast.
Crime, Wine, and Chaos contains adult language and graphic content. Listener discretion is advised.
Hey, listeners, I'm Amber.
And I'm Naomi, and this is Crime, Wine, and Chaos.
Hey.
Hey.
Hey, sister. How
Hi.
are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, the rains came, so it's full on now. The rains and the big dark are fully here, and I kind of just want to eat all the food I can get my hands on and lay down and sleep for the next 3 months. That's where I'm at.
Hibernation. Maybe Bear Donut Lady will make an appearance in our lives again.
You know what? I would love it if Donut Lady came and just poured a dozen donuts out of a box right on top of me. Like she could just pour. I'm fine with that.
That sounds like the start of an awkward porn.
Hey, you know what? No fetish shaming here. No fetish or kink
shame. If you
shame.
love donuts, I love that for you.
Yeah, 100%.
What's
going on
new?
with you? How about you?
Just working, and it's, Thanksgiving week. It's a 3-day work week, which weirdly feels like the longest week ever.
Yep.
Maybe it's just because I'm chomping at the bit to have a break.
Yep. I feel it.
Yeah. So there's that, and still house hunting, which has stopped being fun about a week and a half ago. And, I know what I was going to tell you. Michael and I have a date night scheduled. We do date nights once a month. And I was going to tell you about this one. I don't know all the details, and you're probably going to be like, what the actual fuck are you doing? But.
Okay. Oh, no, I can't wait.
Okay. It's an escape room, but. Okay. It's an 18 and older escape room, and the mystery that you're trying to solve is the Zodiac Killer. And
what?
It starts off with the workers gently making you feel like you're a victim.
No!
Yes.
What?
And then there's a bunch of true crime trivia to get your clues. So
where is this? What? Who planned this?
Michael, it's in Seattle, but he thinks that I'm going to be like nailing it on the clues. And I don't know. We might both just fake die because of me.
Either that, or you might freak out and be like, fuck this escape room. Get me out of here.
Okay,
that sounds...
Do you know how jaded and dark my mind is? Like, I was already that way, but this podcast hasn't helped.
Right.
The first thing I thought was what a brilliant ruse if you actually are a killer.
100%. That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, yes, this sounds like the beginning. This sounds like the beginning of a horror movie. Like, this is the fun thing we're going to go do. Yeah. This is like edging on like those haunted houses that have popped up in recent years where you basically sign a waiver to go in and they can touch you and they can do things to you and they like really like borderline torture you, and people like sign up for that shit.
Oh shit. Well, I hope it's not that.
Yeah, me too.
Friday night after we record. So if that ends up being our last episode, that's why.
Okay. All right. Well,
So
and we've shared cell phone location data, so I should be able to track you down. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Wow. Okay. Well, I don't have anything that exciting. I do have a couple things. One, have you been listening to the Piketown Massacre podcast?
No.
Oh,
Sounds
well,
like I need to.
I just got caught up on season 4. Are you familiar with the Piketown Massacre?
No, I don't even know where Piketown is.
Well, I would totally do this story if I didn't think that everybody but you knew all this story about the story already, because it's like crazy pants. It is a crazy pants story. It's fairly recent. Season 4 right now is covering like the trials for the people who were caught as the murderers. So it's insane. If you haven't listened to the Piketown Massacre, that's the name of the podcast. It's put on by kind of a more well-backed group. They're part of a media conglomerate of some kind. This gal also she's kind of got like this group of regular peeps that she works with. And they also have another podcast they started recently called Crazy in Love, and it's always like it's always about like a couple where one of them is killed and the other one did it, and it's their love story and how it goes horribly wrong.
It snapped the podcast edition.
Kinda, yeah. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Piketown Massacre, it's great. Like I said, they're on season 4 now, so there's quite a bit of content there to get through, but it is a crazy story. And then the other thing is I was, I kind of befriended, I don't know how else to put it, cause I'm not very good at like understanding all the parlance of Twitter, but I kind of we follow each other on Twitter, and this gal has seen me share out the episodes when they come out and try and get people out there in the Twitterverse to know about Crime, Wine, and Chaos. And I think it's a she, sent me a message and said, hey, you should look into the story. And I actually was thinking about doing it, and I started to do some research on it. But it just wasn't like enough. There just isn't enough information for me to like fully make a good story out of it for the podcast. But I wanted to get the word out to people they could go look into it themselves. So, the story, the story she sent me was for this gentleman named Trey McFadden. And he actually, he died in 2017. But the story basically is that he went missing. His mom or his dad, one of his parents, he was like 24 when he went missing, and his parents filed a missing persons report. He had been with 3 other gentlemen who were, I suppose, friends of his when he went missing. They put out a missing persons announcement in the area where he went missing. This was in North Carolina, I believe. And it turned out that they found him like about a week later in a ditch on the side of the road, and he was deceased. And he was declared it was declared by the medical examiner or the coroner, I don't know, that he had died from injuries due to falling out of a moving vehicle. And that it was ruled as an accident. And his family was like, that is bullshit. That is not what happened. And then they finally tracked down these 3 guys who he was in the car with. He was in the back seat. It wasn't even his car. And these 3 guys are all kind of like just absolute lowlifes. They're all already, like, one of them's dead now, but the other 2 were like in and out of prison. And they basically said, oh, yeah, he was acting crazy and he jumped out of the car and we pulled over and we didn't see his body, so we just left, and they never reported it.
Bullshit.
Right.
Who does that?
Right. So his family, since 2017, his mom's been fighting to try and get police to really get these guys, because she's pretty convinced that these guys did something to her son. And of course he is black, and these other 3 gentlemen are all white, and there's some other undertones going on here. And, you know, for the fact that these guys haven't been picked up, the fact that nobody's really trying hard to solve this crime, which she is convinced is a crime. And so anyway, Justice for Trey McFadden is actually a Facebook group that she made, which is the one place I could find any information on this story. It was really hard to track down any like news stories about it. So it's not even well publicized. People don't know very much about this story. So I just wanted to do a shout out on that one because I couldn't do a full story on it, but I didn't want to just not talk about it. So that's okay. That's what I've got.
I can share that on the Crime, Wine, and Chaos page too.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God, another person found in a ditch and it's not ruled a homicide. What the fuck is going on? That's
exactly
not okay.
Yep. Awesome. So you got a bummer crime for me today?
I do. Real quick, tonight I'm drinking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I totally forgot to ask you what you're drinking.
Don't even, because you know what? I haven't actually had wine in quite some time. And last week I was drinking tea because I had a cold. I still have a cold because I have some sort of fucking mutant cold that won't stop.
Yep.
But I just decided, fuck it. I've got Lacrima Purpura, which is a red wine that I've had on this show several times before. It's delicious. It's from Spain. So I've got that.
Excellent.
Yes, I have one that is dark. I'm just trigger warning across the board, but when I get to a specific spot, I'm going to do another hard trigger warning if people need to fast forward. It's bad. That was the spot that I had approached when I texted you and was like, how gruesome can you handle? Because shit just went way wrong. Way fucking wrong.
Okay.
Like, I was upset and I was researching it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the reason why this story piqued my interest is because it has been, it is said that it is the crime that inspired the movie Scream.
Okay.
So we are going to August 26th, 1990 in Gainesville, Florida.
Okay. I feel like I've heard about the crime that inspired Scream, but it's not like springing straight to the front of mind. So,
well, no offense, Florida, but right off the top, we're in Florida. So like nothing good happens.
Yep. Here we go.
So 56-year-old Patricia Powell and her husband, Frank, pulled into the parking lot of the really nice apartment complex where their 17-year-old daughter, Christine, had just moved to. She had been accepted to the University of Florida. And just a few weeks prior to that, as a congratulations, her dad, Frank, had gotten her a gold necklace with an alligator on it, which is Florida's mascot.
Sure.
And she wore it every day. Also, 18-year-old Sonia Larson had been accepted to the University of Florida, and Sonia and Christine met over the summer doing some summer school courses at the University of Florida, and the two hit it off instantly, and they decided that they wanted to be roommates in an off-campus apartment together for the school year. So they had moved into this apartment just 2 days prior. They did some unpacking and then went out to lunch. And while they were out, Christine called her parents from a payphone because it's 1990, you know.
Right.
She told them everything was great. They're just unpacking. They're grabbing a bite to eat and that she will call and check in tomorrow. And this was on a Friday. So 2 days go by and Christine doesn't call. But on that second day, Sunday, her parents had planned on driving out there to visit her anyway. So even though they were kind of like, why didn't she call? They weren't super worried because they already had a trip planned out to go see her. And they're like,
how far was her family home from the apartment?
It actually didn't say. I think that her family home is in Florida, but it's not close. It didn't say what city in Florida her parents lived or her family.
So we don't know how long this drive is for them to go visit. It's 45 minutes or it's 3 hours. We're not sure.
Right. It's definitely not like a down the street kind of thing.
Got you.
Yeah. So her parents, they're like, it's okay. We're going to see her on Sunday. And she also hadn't set up a landline yet. So they had no way of calling her because it was a brand new apartment. Like she didn't have all that. So they figured she just forgot. And so no big deal. So they pull into this complex on this Sunday, which is August 26th, 1990. And it's the kind of apartment where you have to go in through like main doors, and then the individual apartments are inside. So like a secured building sort of thing.
Yep.
Only this one doesn't seem to be secure because you're able to just like walk in. You don't have to be like buzzed in or anything.
Right.
So they go inside, they make their way up the carpeted stairs to the second floor, and on the young women's door, they see several taped notes from friends who have stopped by and were unable to get a hold of them.
Oh.
Yeah. So Patricia and Frank see this and they get worried and they knock on the door, but no one answers. And they try the knob, but it's locked. So they go back outside and they see a maintenance worker for the complex and they tell him what's going on and they ask him if he can let them in. And he's like, yeah, probably, but I need to check with my apartment manager. So he finds the apartment manager. She gets the whole scoop about how they haven't heard from their daughter in 2 days and all the notes on the door. And she's like, yeah, we can let you in, but I will need to call an officer to come down to be present for that.
Okay.
So they call and a single officer comes out. And the officer, thank God, has the wherewithal to tell the parents that they need to stay outside of the building. So not just outside the door, but outside of the whole building, right?
Okay.
And so the officer and the maintenance worker and the manager go in. And the three walk into the apartment. And right as you walk in, it takes you into the living room. And there's a couch and a TV that have already been set up. And as they go into the living room and round the corner to the right, the maintenance man screams, runs outside, and vomits right in front of the parents.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So obviously the parents see this and freak out and they run upstairs. The officer manages to keep them out of the apartment, or he's trying to keep them out of the apartment rather.
Yeah.
But they end up pushing their way past. And inside they see their daughter nude, face down, and stabbed to death.
Oh my God.
I know. And she was posed in a lewd position.
Mm-hmm.
So the parents are escorted out by the apartment manager and the officer goes upstairs. And this is where he finds Sonia in her bedroom. She is nude and on the side of her bed and in the same position that they found Christine.
Right.
And it was later determined that Christine had been sexually assaulted, but Sonia had not been.
Okay.
Officer Ray Barber comes out of the apartment and calls for backup, and forensics are done at the scene, and they find obvious marks where the door had been pried open, possibly with like a screwdriver.
Okay. Like the front door?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think that the main like door into the building was secure. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah. And they also noticed that soap had been used to clean Christine's body and the surrounding areas. Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. And she was the only one that was sexually assaulted.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And there was residue on her wrists indicating that her wrists had been taped, but there was no tape on her and there was no tape in the apartment.
Oh.
Like he took it off and took it with him.
Okay.
So the police believe that the two women were targeted and that the murder was sophisticated.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is just days away from classes starting at the university, and the campus is about to be flooded with young people, and the media is warning everyone to be careful and lock their doors.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh. It is then learned that just 12 hours before Christine and Sonia were found, 18-year-old Krista Hoyt didn't show up for work. She was a student at the local community college who planned to transfer to the University of Florida into their forensics program.
Oh, the irony.
I know. Well, and she was working part-time at the sheriff's office as a record keeper, like doing clerical
way.
work.
Oh my God. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So when she didn't show up for work, the sheriff's office called the Gainesville police, which is where she lived, and asked them to do a welfare check. So Krista lived alone in an apartment about 2 miles away from Christine and Sonia. 2 officers went to her apartment and knocked on the door, but they got no answer. They tried her door, but it was locked. And they go around to the back where she has a slider, and it's also locked, but she has curtains on her slider, but they're a few inches too short.
Okay.
So one of the officers lays on the ground so that he can peer into her apartment through the gap.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the really bad trigger warning is.
Okay. Trigger warning.
So if you can't, it's bad. So just,
okay.
So when he looks through this gap, he sees Krista sitting hunched over, naked on her bed. Her body is facing the sliding glass door, but she has no head.
Oh, yeah.
And the officers...
Yep. I do know this story. Yep.
Yeah. Are you okay?
Yep.
The officer looks around the room and he sees her head. It is sitting on her dresser across the room, and it is positioned in such a way that it is her head looking at her body on the bed.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's... Yeah.
Oh, my
It's
God.
fucking awful and dark. And
oh, my God.
so when forensics arrive to Krista's, they see the same markings on her slider indicating someone pried it open. She has the same adhesive residue on her wrists, but no tape at the crime scene. And she had been sexually assaulted. You're very familiar with this case?
No, I mean, I know that when, as you tell me more, I'm going to remember more, but I remember this particular crime scene.
Yeah.
Yep. The serial killer.
Okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know this, and I got to that part, and I was like,
Yep, the Gainesville serial killer. Yep. And I'm just trying to make sure I got this, though. Krista was found later, but killed sooner.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So within hours, the media releases this new information, and it's fucking chaos in Gainesville. The stores are selling out of locks, mace, tasers, guns. Police come out in packs, in vehicles, and on foot and patrol the entire city all night. And it's so nuts in Gainesville that it draws national media attention. So Lisa Byers, who didn't live in Gainesville or in Florida, but she had a friend who did, she sees the news and she calls her friend Tracy and asks her how she's doing with everything.
Oh, no.
Tracy said that she was freaked out, but Tracy also had a male roommate, Manny, who was her best friend. And Manny was this big dude and like a former football player. So Tracy tells Lisa that she had Manny, so she felt okay. That her and Manny had classes that afternoon, and they would be home in the early evening, and they would lock up, and they didn't have plans to go anywhere. So Lisa asks Tracy to please call her when she gets home from class that night. And Tracy says that she would, but that night Tracy doesn't call. Yeah. Lisa tried calling a couple times, but got no answer. And eventually she just went to bed. She figured Tracy forgot. Everything's fine. She's got Manny, whatever. So early the next morning, Lisa calls Tracy's apartment again and gets no answer. So she reaches out to a mutual friend, Tommy, who lives in the same complex as Tracy and Manny. And she asks him to go over to Tracy and Manny's apartment and check on them. And 5 minutes later, Tommy calls Lisa from Tracy's landline, and he is screaming.
Oh, no.
I know. So the police arrive, and they find Tracy just like Christine and Krista. And Manny is found in his room, fully clothed, but stabbed to death.
Oh, Manny.
I know.
He was supposed to be the protector.
Oh.
Also, this jumps outside the MO. That's interesting, because prior to this, it was like, it seemed almost clear that there was like it was the like women alone or women without men there to protect them, right? Like,
yeah.
Do these, and I don't want to like get ahead of myself here, but do these women have a similar profile? Is this like a Ted Bundy situation where they all like look very similar to each other?
They sort of do, but really they were just attractive college age women.
Okay. So it's not like they all had like shoulder length blonde hair or something.
No, but
Okay.
I mean, all of these are fucking devastating, obviously, but
Yes.
Christine and Sonia, like, I can't imagine, like, it's your very first apartment. It's your very first time not living with your parents, and you have been there for 2 days.
Christine was 17.
Yeah.
She was hardly even old
days.
enough to be living outside of her parents' home.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even fucking imagine. And
No.
also, like, it's for the parents, like, it's scary and nerve-wracking enough to send your kiddo out into adulthood. And
Yep.
2 days,
Yeah.
I can't even fucking imagine.
Nope.
It's awful. So, yeah, they see the pry marks on Tracy and Manny's door and the same, adhesive residue on Tracy's wrist. And so now the residents they were already freaked out. Now it's real bad.
Yeah.
So the Gainesville police call in the National Guard for help. And now the streets are just swarming with law enforcement. There's helicopters in the air. There's tanks in the street. Like they
oh my
are like,
God.
I know.
And it's like one guy. It's one fucking piece of shit. It is one piece of shit who has brought pandemonium to Gainesville.
Mm-hmm.
And the federal bastards are in town now, like.
Right. Well, I don't think that they think that they're going to catch him that way. I think they think they're going to deter him.
Of course.
But, and I think that it's 1990 and it's a college town. It's young people. I can imagine, I mean, it doesn't work, but I can imagine the presence of that probably alleviates some anxiety.
Well, and also it encourages people like not to be out. Like, who wants to be out on the street when there's like, armored vehicles rolling by with guys in like camo and shit. Like, it's the college kids are not partying as hard.
No.
And putting themselves in vulnerable positions as much if the National Guard is marching down the street.
Yeah. The thing that occurred to me when I was doing this, though, is like everything was like, stay inside and lock your doors. I'm like, these are all happening inside behind locked doors. Like,
that's true.
Maybe the safe thing to do is to fucking go outside for the night. Like,
right?
Find a group of people and have a bonfire somewhere. Like,
yeah,
don't go
no
home.
shit.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
God.
I do. Because it sounds like, and I'm like arm chairing it over here, but it sounds like that's part of the fun for this guy.
Yeah.
That's part of the rush, and whatever is drawing him to do this is the like shattering of the illusion in his mind, the illusion of safety that these people, especially these women, have behind their locked doors. Right?
I would be afraid to be home. If I could afford to, I'd probably get like a couple of friends and get a motel room for a couple weeks,
Just get the fuck out of town till they find this guy.
That might be the smartest thing to do. Like, if someone knows that I'm a female, I live by myself or I live with other females, like, I'm going somewhere else. I'm not staying home behind my locked door. Fuck that.
Gotta go.
Yeah. So, the police, just 24 hours after Tracy and Manny's murder, the police start getting several tips about the same individual, and that is 19-year-old Ed Humphreys. Ed Humphreys is rough looking.
Yep.
So our friend Ed here, he was a freshman at University of Florida, and he had just been arrested for assaulting his grandma.
His grandma?
Yeah, he punched her in the face.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Ed's a
grandma.
piece of shit. Yeah. So, knowing that he was a suspect in the homicides, they set his bail for the assault on grandma at $1 million to keep him there while they investigate.
Right.
So, several people said that Ed was mentally unstable, that he hated women, and he always carried a knife and would wander around in the woods at night.
What?
And I mean, okay, you know what other thought I had?
What?
This is so weird. Try and keep up with this is what maybe this is why it takes me so long to do a story, because my mind just goes, I wonder. Do you think people, like normal people, are scared to wander around in the woods at night?
Yeah.
Do you think people who are the people we're afraid of are scared to wander around in the woods at night?
No.
That's so weird to me to think that that's not scary.
No. But here's the thing. Who is saying that he wanders the woods at night, and how do they know that?
I don't know.
Right? Like, that's what I'm wondering. Like, how do we know this guy is wandering the woods at night? Is this self-reported? Like, right?
You know,
you almost spit your wine out.
First off, it's the 1990s, and it could be that Ed was like the kid on campus that sticks out like a sore thumb. I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, and also he sacrifices animals, and also he listens to Metallica.
Right. No, 100%. But I mean, maybe he tells people that, because he might be one of those kind of guys who's like, you know, tells people what he's doing at night, like in some weird, braggy, I'm cool
maybe
kind of way. You know how people like that will do that?
Yeah,
like,
I'm so dark and dangerous.
Yeah, I just wander in the woods at night with my knife and kill woodland creatures. I don't know.
He for sure sees punched grandma in the face. So there's
we know that happened. Yeah.
And when you see the mugshot of this guy, I'd be running the other way if I saw him. First off, I wouldn't be in the woods at night, but if I saw him on a lit sidewalk at night, I'd be running the other way.
I mean, to be fair, nobody looks good in a mugshot. I'm just saying.
Oh, honey, this isn't not looking good.
You're going to make me look this guy up before we're even done so that I can see.
I'll just send it to you. So all these people are talking about Ed and his shenanigans, right? And also, during the time that he was in custody, the murder stopped.
Right. That was going to be my next thing. Like, does another murder happen while he's in custody? This isn't the guy.
Right. So I've got to send you this picture just a second. Okay. Apparently there's some fucking Ed Humphreys for governor. No. Anyway. Later. So, but police also know that the killer, this is the 90s, so there's no DNA, but they know that the killer has type B blood type. And Humphreys has type A.
Oh.
So they don't necessarily believe that he's totally ruled out. They think that he might somehow be involved, because one of the theories that they were running with was like, because these crime scenes were so fucking sophisticated and so clean, that maybe it was more than one person. So the FBI gives Gainesville police access to their database called VCAP. And VCAP is a database that allows you to put in specific details of a crime, and then the database will search for similar crimes with those unique details.
Oh, I do remember this. Oh, I know where this is going. Keep going.
Oh no.
No, it's good. No, this is
job. You always text me, have you heard of such and such? And I just freestyle over here.
No, it's fine. Keep going.
Okay. So they put in the details of the 5 murders, and they get a match to one other crime. And it was an unsolved triple homicide from 1989, so the year before, in Shreveport, Louisiana, which was about 800 miles away. Mm-hmm. So we're in Shreveport now. It's Friday, November 3rd, 1989, and 8-year-old Sean Grissom gets dropped off at his grandpa's house for the weekend to celebrate his birthday.
I hate this. Keep going.
His grandpa, 56-year-old Tom, was recently divorced and excited to spend quality time with his grandson for the weekend. Also in the house was Tom's 24-year-old daughter, Sean's aunt, Julie Grissom, and Julie was attending Louisiana University in Shreveport. So Sean's mom drops him off at Grandpa's, and Grandpa tells her that he will bring him home Monday morning in time for him to get to school. So over the next 2 days, Mom doesn't hear from them, but she figures they're having a good time. She doesn't want to interrupt them. But Monday morning, Grandpa doesn't show up with Sean.
Mm-hmm.
So she calls Grandpa a few times. She gets no answer. Then she starts thinking maybe Grandpa took him straight to school. So she calls the school, but they tell her that Sean was absent. They haven't seen him. So she calls the police. Yeah. And the police are able to get in touch with Tom's neighbor, and they ask the neighbor to go over to the house and knock on the door.
What? Why don't the police just go?
I don't know. But this poor, this is, the police are trained for this, and this is fucking traumatizing to people.
What? We're not going to go on another tangent about what's wrong with police. Keep going.
Okay, great. So the neighbor notices right away that the two cars in the driveway were the same spot that they were in on Friday night. And also that there's the two weekend newspapers are at the end of the driveway. And the neighbor knew that Tom went out and got his paper every morning.
Right.
So it was odd that they were sitting there.
Let me, just for our younger listeners, paper is short for newspaper, and it used to be where we got our news, and they would deliver them to your house, like actual news printed on paper, and they would bring it to your house every morning, and it was a ritual to go and pick it up and bring it inside and find out what happened to the day before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Printed on paper.
Right. Back when we were children, if you wanted to make money, weirdly, there was no child labor laws with delivering newspapers at 5 o'clock in the morning as a 10-year-old.
That's right.
And so that's what we did.
That's right. Which is why there's a bunch of missing children's cases that were never solved, that were like paper boys gone missing at 5 a.m.
Yes. That is where the milk carton child started.
That's exactly
was the paper
right.
boy in Iowa, right?
That's exactly right.
So the neighbor tries the front door. It's locked, but he's eventually able to get into the house through the garage. So he goes inside, and he right away sees Tom on the kitchen floor.
Great.
So the neighbor backs the fuck out of the house.
Good job, neighbor.
Yep. Without looking any further, and calls the police.
Yep.
When the police get there, they
finally
see that Tom... Yeah. After the neighbor has done the preliminary work, the police arrive.
And trampled on part of the crime scene.
Right. And is traumatized now.
Yes.
This is another big trigger warning.
Okay.
So they see Tom has been stabbed. He's on the kitchen floor. They see 8-year-old Sean is slumped over the couch, and he had also been stabbed. And Julie was upstairs in her room, and she had all the same things as the Gainesville women.
Yep.
Yeah. She was cleaned with vinegar, and the whole crime scene was extremely clean and sophisticated. And the blood type of the killer in this case was type B.
Uh-huh.
So then somehow the fact that this Shreveport case was linked to the Gainesville case got leaked to the media.
Uh-oh.
And the police initially are fucking pissed because it was like the only thing that they had in their back pocket.
Yeah.
And now the case could be jeopardized. This comes up a lot.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, because what happens is the case wasn't fucking jeopardized. So
it actually helped them.
Right.
Uh-huh.
So our friend Cindy here in Shreveport saw this media leak, and she calls in a tip. And she told the police that they really should take a look at Danny Rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. 37-year-old Danny was a drifter in Shreveport, and he once told Cindy's husband that he had a problem. He said that he liked stabbing people.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
That's a real problem.
Yeah, Cindy was like, oh, okay, no, no. She said that he always carried a knife. He was mentally unstable. I don't know how Cindy's husband knew him, but basically after he told them that, they both told Danny to stay the fuck away from
Bye.
them. Bye, Danny. You're not coming to dinner anymore.
Yeah.
But one of the last things that he said to Cindy was that he planned on leaving Shreveport and finding a place with lots of beautiful young women that he could stare at.
Fucking gross.
Fucking piece of shit. So the police start looking into Danny, and they learned that he was raised in an extremely abusive home.
Mm-hmm.
His father was an awful piece of shit. So Danny left home and joined the Air Force, but after 2 years in the Air Force, he was kicked out for being mentally unstable.
Yep.
After being discharged in the early 80s, he committed a string of robberies for which he was caught, and he spent the majority of the 80s in prison.
Fun.
He was, yeah. He was released in 1989 and moved back to Shreveport with his parents, who didn't want him there, but he had nowhere else to go.
Okay.
And his parents lived just half a mile from Tom Grissom's home.
Yep.
Yeah. And just after the triple homicide, but prior to the Gainesville killings, Danny gets in a huge fight with his dad. His dad pulls a gun on him and tells him to get the fuck out of his house. Danny leaves, but comes back with a gun, shoots his father in the head and in the stomach. His father survives.
What?
Danny, yeah.
Wow.
I know. Resilient.
What an ornery old man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And an arrest warrant is issued for Danny for attempted murder, but he fled.
He goes to Florida.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, police continue to dig into Danny and his whereabouts, and then they remember that the same week that the murder started in Gainesville, there was a bank robbery in Gainesville that was still unsolved.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding. A single person in a mask with a gun went into a bank during the day and demanded money. The robber fled the bank and went into the woods, and the police weren't able to find him. But they do find a campsite in the woods.
Did they run into that other guy that's in jail right now for being a weirdo?
For punching his grandma?
Yes.
No. Mm-mm. Lots of guys hanging out in the woods here. I'm not sure what's going on.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, I don't know. So, the police search the woods and they find a campsite and a bag of money with dye all over it. And they also find a knife and a gun and a tape recorder. But because the police were so busy with these multiple homicides, the evidence for the robbery was put into storage and not looked at.
Okay. Was it a videotape or an audio tape?
An audio tape.
Okay.
So as the officers are finally piecing all this together, they pull the evidence from the robbery so that they can listen to the cassette tape.
Mm-hmm.
And on the tape is a man singing a song that he wrote.
Oh, no.
And the song is about being a mystery killer.
Like a jaunty little tune about being a serial killer that nobody knows who you are.
There's nothing more fucking terrifying than being sing-songy and having it be something dark.
I know. It's like when you're watching a horror movie and it's like little children. La,
Stop
la,
it.
La, la.
Yes!
Sorry, you're welcome.
Dude in the woods singing into a tape recorder about his... No.
It's so gross. It's so creepy. Ugh.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So he even identifies himself on the tape as Danny Rawlings.
Oh, good job, Danny.
Yeah. Also
mystery solved.
I know, you're not a very good mystery killer. I'm a mystery, and I am Danny Rawlings. La, la. I don't think you understand how a mystery works.
Nope. Fucking dumbass.
Fucking dumbass, Danny. So, they also find a screwdriver, and this screwdriver matches exactly the pry marks on the doors of all the crime scenes.
Yep.
And they also do a search into his military records, and they find out that he is a type B blood type. So now Danny is their number one suspect, and they didn't have to try very hard to find him because he was in custody about 40 miles south of Gainesville for another armed robbery. This guy's fucking stupid.
He's really busy, too.
He's got a lot going on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So while in custody, he's charged with the 5 Gainesville murders. They weren't able to charge him with the Shreveport murders due to lack of evidence, not at that time anyway. Danny is brought back to Gainesville. He initially enters a plea of not guilty, and it takes 4 years before trial began. And on the first day of trial, Danny shocks everybody and enters a plea of guilty to all 5 counts of murder.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Also,
like,
can you do that?
I did it.
Can you do that? Can you just change your plea?
You can change your plea. Okay. The moment that a jury is sworn in, that's when double jeopardy comes into play and plea bargains are off the table. So if they're still doing jury selection or pretrial hearings or any of that, that's literally like when you talk about like up to the 11th hour of like, okay, I'll take the plea. As soon as jurors are sworn in,
it's gone.
Trial has officially started. Yeah.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. I sat in on a trial one time where it was learned right after the jurors were sworn in that the crime happened in another jurisdiction and it was filed in the wrong court.
Oh my God.
And they couldn't refile it because it was double jeopardy at that point, because the jurors had been sworn in, even though nothing had been done.
Did they have the trial anyway?
Nope. It was dismissed for lack of jurisdiction, and it couldn't be refiled because of double jeopardy.
Oh.
I know. Yeah.
Oh, somebody fucked up.
The prosecutor fucked up. And also, like, by the time a case gets to trial, the crime happened several years ago. Nobody noticed that it wasn't this.
Nobody noticed. Oh, my God.
How many times have you looked at this case? Yeah, it was bad. It was real awkward. I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me.
I bet.
So anyway, he changes his plea to guilty. He said that he did it because he wanted to be a superstar like his idol, Ted Bundy.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Fuck off, Danny. And he would later on confess to the triple homicide in Shreveport.
Oh.
And then he goes into a full detail of exactly what went down. So on the day of the triple homicide in Shreveport, he had just been fired from his job at a restaurant. And he was walking around a neighborhood pissed off and in a rage. And he decided that what he needed was to kill somebody. He said he was standing in front of Tom's house and he saw people inside walking around. So he gets out his knife, walked up to the front door. It was unlocked and he just walked right in.
You know, you do.
This is so fucking sad. So Sean was on the couch watching TV and Danny walked up behind him and stabbed him in the back, killing him instantly. Tom was grilling steaks for everybody on the back patio. So he was going back and forth between the patio and the kitchen. And when Danny killed Tom, he was standing in the kitchen holding the plate of steaks that were done. I know. I mean, he's got his grandson over for the first time post-divorce, making him a birthday dinner. It's fucking awful. Yeah. And then he goes upstairs to Julie's room where she was getting ready to attend a friend's wedding. She had just gotten out of the shower and walked into her room to find Danny. And, yeah, I know. So 6 months later, he ended up in Gainesville. He had made a campsite in the woods that he was living in. And he recorded himself on the tape player right before he left the woods to go kill. So shortly after walking out of the woods, he finds himself in front of the apartment complex where Christine and Sonia lived. And he was able to walk right through the access door, up the stairs, and pry open their front door.
How did he know that which door to go to find women?
Well, he had been living in the woods across from that complex, so I think that he knew where they lived. Mm-hmm. He said that when he went in, Christine was asleep on the couch. So fucking terrifying. And he decided to leave her alone at first and go upstairs. He killed Sonia first, and she fucking put up a fight.
Good for her.
And then he goes, yeah, good for her. He went downstairs. Christina's still asleep, so he nudges her awake. So fucking terrifying. And then, of course, he tapes her hands and mouth, sexually assaults her, and stabs her. Then he goes back to his campsite and waited about 8 hours before he had the urge to go back out and kill. And he remembers a woman. Okay, so Krista was killed after. He remembers a woman he saw a few days ago. He had seen Krista inside her apartment, and it looked like she lived alone. So he goes back to that apartment. He breaks in. Krista isn't home, so he waits for her in her closet for several hours.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She came home around 11 a.m. and he still waited for a while after she was home before he, I know. I can't.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I'm going to skip this next part because I think that it's too much.
Okay.
So he kills her.
But Nanny.
So 48 hours later, he was at his campsite and decided that he needed to kill again. And he finds himself in front of another apartment complex that he's mostly used by college students. That's the other thing is like, this is a college town and almost every complex has young people in it, you know?
Yep.
So he goes up to the first apartment he sees. He pops open the slider, and the first person he sees is Manny asleep in his bed. Manny does wake up and tries to fight him off, but it was not.
He was asleep. He was not prepared. Yeah.
But Tracy was in the shower, and she heard a commotion. So she comes into Manny's room and sees Danny stabbing Manny. And this was the girl whose friend called her, remember?
Yeah.
So when Tracy sees Danny, she said, "Are you the one?" And he said, "Yes, I am." Can you?
Oh my God. No,
imagine?
Don't ask me that. Do not ask me that. You know I cannot imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. No.
Mm-hmm. I can't. Oh my God.
I have chills.
I know. Fuck. So,
God.
16 years later, on October 25th, 2006, Danny was executed by lethal injection.
Yes, he was, because Florida does not fuck around with that.
No. Okay, and that's they like to kill story.
People.
I'm done.
Oh, sister.
I can't. I'm sorry.
Okay. I did know this story, but there was definitely details in there that I had not heard before. So that is, I'm still goosebumpy. I can't. Ugh, are you the one? Ugh.
I can't. I can't even fucking imagine.
No.
Mm-mm.
I think about, when I hear stories like this, I think about those women, and I can almost put myself in their shoes, you know, like, and I just cannot even fathom the feelings, the fear,
I can't either.
No.
I've had moments where I thought someone was trying to get in as a woman home by myself. And just that, like, the fear was so debilitating that I couldn't, like, I wanted to, like, vomit and cry and freeze and run. It was so...
All at the same time?
So I can't imagine. My only hope is, like, in those moments, like, somehow you leave your body and you're not...
Yep.
Like, I can't... You know what I mean?
Yep.
That somehow biology kicks in to protect you in that way.
I hope so.
So that you can be okay. Because otherwise, I can't fucking imagine that kind of terror and pain. And I can't.
And the thing is like people who invade homes when they either know or expect that people will be home are the most dangerous people. They're the craziest ones. Because, like, people who break into your house to steal your stuff do it during the day while we're all at work. They don't they just want to steal your stuff. They don't want to, like, hurt people. They're not trying to, like, you know what I mean? That's a different kind of person than the kind of person that wants to break in the middle of the night while people are sleeping.
I know. And, like, for people who are able to survive that, it's like your home is your safe haven. Like, how do you ever have peace again anywhere?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I've been a little bit on edge since there was the break-in upstairs.
Yeah.
And, like, my apartment is contained, and, like, I have my own entrance, but it's part of a house, and the people that broke in, they came in through the sliding glass door on the second level, where the deck is, which means they came down to the backside of the house. They were right near my door to go up the deck. I mean, like, you know where the stairs are to get up the deck. I mean, it's like 6 paces from my front door to go up those stairs to the deck and go through the sliding glass door up there. And, like, it was 3:00 in the morning. There was a house full of people.
God, that's so creepy. That is so creepy.
And I feel super secure in my spot, but, like, yeah, that's still unnerving, you know?
It's so unnerving.
Those are the scary people.
Yeah. It's so interesting because for years and years and years, I lived in a city that was, a 30-minute drive from the one that I worked in, and arguably, well, not a nicer city, but the city I lived in, certainly at the court, I would have made a much nicer salary. And people were always like, why don't you could walk to work and make more money? And it was always like, because I don't want to know what's going on around me.
No.
I want to be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
No shit.
Yeah.
No shit. No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, sister.
Yeah. Anyway.
Whew, that was a rough one. And I got little teared. I know. I got a little teared up there about Grandpa. That was hard. That was hard.
Yeah.
That was really hard.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You know what? I'm going to shift us. I'm going to shift our gears here. That's what I'm going to do. I've got a chaos story for you. I hope this is new information for you. And if not for you, at least we'll be able to laugh a little bit and talk about it. And maybe it'll be new for some of your listeners. So,
oh, good. Love it.
I am going to tell you the story about the Great Emu War.
The bird?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
You never heard about this?
No, I think I'd remember if I had.
Okay, great. So, emus are related to the ostrich, right? They are also related to the cassowary, which is actually the most dangerous of the three of these birds.
Oh.
An emu will typically grow to about 5 feet tall and weigh about 100 pounds.
Jeez.
A study conducted in 2014 on their behavior found them to be pretty docile and low-key, also really curious, but they become alert and vigilant to basically any sound. Oh. Generally, one emu stays on high alert when the rest of them are eating. So they congregate together and right. So there's like one emu that keeps an eye out while the rest of them. Yeah. So emus only live in Australia. Yes, this is the continent where all the wildlife is nightmare fuel and will probably kill you. Oh, speaking of, there was this TikTok going around last week. There's a whole bunch of flooding that happened in Australia. And this guy posted a TikTok from inside his house, like right up against like the sliding glass door looking out on his back porch. And because of the flooding, there was like mosquito swarming. And when I say mosquito swarming, it literally, like you could barely even see any of the details of his porch because there were so many mosquitoes just swarming outside his door. It's really unnerving. Thank you for that, Australia.
Do you think that people just took weird, problematic animals and dumped them there? Like, what's the farthest point that is surrounded by water so that you're not a problem for us anymore? I mean,
it almost seems like that, right? It almost seems deliberate like that.
The size of you. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. And a kangaroo will fuck you up.
Oh, for sure. There's a reason why every cartoon kangaroo is a boxer. That's real.
That's real. So, the settling of Australia by white Europeans started on the East Coast, and as it became more populated, the emus were forced west. Much how the colonists in North America pushed everything and everyone that was already there further west when they showed up. It's a thing, right? It's what Europe does. So for a while it was fine. The emus just hung out undisturbed in Western Australia and nobody was bothered by them much. They migrated to where the grass was greenest because of course they did. But after the end of World War I in 1918, when soldiers were returning from war and they were coming home, the Australian government instituted this program, and they would give veterans large acreages of farmland out west. So roughly 5,000 of these veterans took them up on this offer. It seemed like a pretty good deal. Well, except the part where the land they were all given wasn't exactly ideal for farming, but they all gave it a go anyway.
Okay.
So a decade later, the Great Depression ticks off, and the government says, hey, we'd really like it if you grew more wheat, and we'll pay you extra money to do it. But those subsidies that they promised were empty promises. And the farmers didn't get that money, and they weren't really able to increase their yield either. By 1932, things were getting really bad. The price of wheat had continued to drop, and while the farmers were harvesting, they were also threatening to withhold their crops because they weren't harvesting as much as they wanted, and they weren't getting paid enough, and the government wasn't subsidizing them. So there was kind of this tension a brewing.
Mm-hmm. They're holding their wheat hostage.
Right.
Got it.
And then there was the emus.
Okay.
So emus are migratory, like a lot of birds, and they breed inland, and then they move to the coasts when breeding season is finished. And since the farmers had settled on the West Coast, they had created a virtual emu oasis. You know, they cleared a bunch of land and added water supplies for their livestock. And they basically were creating acres and acres of lush farmland. And all the emos were talking about it. And when I say, and then there was the emus, I mean like 20 fucking thousand of these goddamn things.
Oh my God.
And these human-sized birds were an absolute fucking menace. If you're a farmer, at least. They would eat up the crops. They would ruin them while wandering through them. They tore down fences, which allowed other animals in, like rabbits and vermin and such, right, who did their own part to rip through the farm fields and just eat the wheat like it was one giant buffet. Before 1922, they were a protected species. I think they might have been the official bird of Australia.
Oh, I bet they regret that.
But that shit ended, right?
Okay.
And they became a pest.
Mm-hmm.
And the farmers were doing what they could on their own at first. So they tried shooting them away, but they only killed about 3,000 of them in 1928. And these were all ex-soldiers who considered themselves really good shots. So they figured they just didn't have enough firepower amongst them to really get the job done. So they implored the Australian government to help them out. They were like, "Hey, we need some firepower support here." Uh-huh. So a group of vets went themselves to meet with the Minister of Defense, Sir George Pierce.
Oh.
And they were like, "Look, we know what we need. We need machine guns."
Okay. For an emu. Jesus Christ.
And Sir George was all, yes, machine guns is exactly right. But you see, we need them to be used by current military men, not you veterans. Also, you're going to have to pay for those men for their food and lodging, and you'll have to pay for all the ammunition that we use.
How about you fuck yourself and pay me for my wheat?
Right?
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Sir George said this was also a good training exercise for the military boys, target practice.
Oh.
That's how he partially justified backing this plan.
Okay.
But there were some other undercurrents going on here, too. There was grumblings on the west coast of Australia. Some people were calling for secession. Mm-hmm. And some in the Australian government saw this, this whole plan to go help with the emus as a gesture of goodwill, right? To calm these cries for a split from Australia. And because it might not be a bad idea, actually, to, appease the Western part of Australia and this population of farmers. They sent a cinematographer from Fox Movietone to join the expedition.
To film emos being shot by machine guns?
Yep.
Oh, okay. It's not exactly National Geographic, but okay.
Yep. So they were all set to start this so-called war on the emus in October of 1932, led by, this is a mouthful, Major Gwynd Purvis Wyn Aubrey Meredith of the 7th Heavy Battery of the Royal Australian Artillery.
All I heard was Purvis, and I thought, pervert.
I knew you would.
Perv.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
So Perv is leading the emu war.
So Major Perv. So they're all set, and then it rained a lot for a while. And the emus scattered. So they had to wait. Mm-hmm. So finally, on November 2nd, the rain stopped and the war could begin. Oh, also, the troops deployed for this emu war were ordered to collect 100 emu skins so they could use their feathers for hats for the light horsemen, which is the mounted cavalry division of the Australian military.
Okay. There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on here.
Okay.
So hats for the horsey guys.
Obs, horsey guys. And a hat for Perv.
Of course. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so they started out in Campion, one of the farmland areas, and they spotted 50 emus, but they were too far away for the machine guns, and a bunch of dudes went out and tried to corral them closer, which only made them scatter and disperse again. So they finally managed to get some of them close enough to shoot at, and then they found another pocket of them that day that they also managed to shoot at, and all told, a couple of dozen emus were killed on their first day.
A couple of dozen?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
A couple days later, they set themselves up on a spot where they thought they could ambush the emus. And this time they waited for the birds to move close enough to them to shoot them. Because the machine guns only had a certain distance, range.
Right. Uh-huh.
And then as they got close, they went to shoot them, but then the machine gun jammed up after they killed about 12 of them, and the rest of them scattered.
Oh, okay. So we got another dozen.
Yeah. So no more emus were sighted that day.
So the vets that sucked, that killed 3,000, they're off the job.
Right. But that was over the course of a period of time. It wasn't like they did 3,000 in a day.
Got it.
So over the next few days, they moved further south, hearing there were many more emus in that direction, and they were supposed to be very tame. But no, they didn't get that many of the emus. One of the observers of the Army's efforts noted that, quote, each pack seems to have its own leader now, a big black-plumed bird that stands fully 6 feet high and keeps watch while his mates carry out their work of destruction and warns them of our approach.
Oh my God.
Alpha emu.
Alpha emu. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So at one point, our friend Major Perv decided what they should do is mount a machine gun on a truck and chase them.
What?
Except the truck couldn't actually catch up to the emus, and the gunner couldn't actually shoot the machine gun while the truck was bumbling along over all that rough terrain. So nothing happened that day.
Okay, cool.
By the 8th of November, so we're 6 days into this war, 2,500 rounds of ammunition had been fired, and the number of birds killed the number is in dispute. Some say 50, some say 200, some say 500.
Oh. Okay.
Regardless, it wasn't 2,500, which is the number of bullets that were shot, and it definitely wasn't even close to 20,000.
Oh my God. What's your success rate if 2,500 bullets are shot? It's not good.
It's not good.
No, it's not good.
But Major Perv's report did note that none of his men suffered any casualties.
Okay.
So we got that going for us.
Oh, good. I was worried.
So there's this ornithologist, which I think is somebody who studies birds. Literally, that's what they do.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay.
Dominic Cerventi. He wrote this sick burn of the whole ordeal. Quote, "The machine gunner's dreams of point-blank fire into serried masses of emus was soon dissipated. The emu command had evidently ordered guerrilla tactics, and its unwieldy army soon split up into innumerable small units that made use of the military equipment uneconomic. A crestfallen field force therefore withdrew from the combat area after about a month."
Oh.
The emus were winning. There was a war on the emus, and the emus were winning. So that same day, the 8th, the Australian House of Reps had a convo about this operation. The local media coverage surrounding this war was less than glowing. Mm-hmm. So Sir George withdrew the guns and military personnel and called it quits.
Okay.
But within a matter of days, the farmers were asking for help again. And this time, the Premier of Western Australia was inclined to lend his political weight to support them. So the Minister of Defense was like, yeah, okay. Okay, but we got to send Major Perv. We got to send Major Perv back out there because there's no one out there who knows how to use the machine guns we're sending.
I don't think he does either.
I'm not so sure.
Okay.
The first couple of days, they killed like 40 emus.
Okay.
And the next day, they killed none. By early December, they got their groove and they were killing about 100 a week. Okay. But all told, by the 10th of December, when Major Perv was called back to defend himself and the operation, he claimed 986 dead emus and 9,860 rounds of ammunition fired.
Holy shit.
So they were expending 10 rounds for every one emu killed.
There it is. There's the percentage.
Major Perv claims that another 2,500 birds died later from bullets that didn't kill them on impact. Like they wandered off and died later.
Okay.
But still, that's about 3,500. Over the next couple of decades, the farmers would ask for assistance again and again, but the Australian government was disinclined to acquiesce to their requests. Oh. Instead, they continued the bounty program that had been instituted in 1923, which proved pretty effective. 57,034 bounties were claimed over a 6-month period in 1934 alone.
Wow.
Word was getting around outside of Australia, and in the UK, some conservationists were righteously pissed off. Mm-hmm. Eventually, exclusion barrier fencing became the norm and was really good at keeping the emus out, as well as other animals that can be hard on farmland and farm animals. In 2019, a musical adaptation of the story was workshopped in Melbourne.
What?
By playwright Simeon Yelaloglu and composer James Court.
Please tell me it consisted of people dressed as emus.
I hope. I wish.
God, I fucking hope. I want to be the black emu leader. The black feathered emu leader.
The black plumed leader of the emus. Mm-hmm. A movie retelling of the events written by and starring John Cleese was announced last year, but I couldn't find any other information about it beyond that.
Holy shit.
But just to make sure we don't gloss over what absolute pieces of shit white dudes can be, Major Perv had this to say about the emus. If we had a military division with the bullet carrying capacity of these birds, it would face any army in the world. They can face machine guns with the invulnerability of tanks. They are like Zulus, whom even dum-dum bullets could not stop.
Holy shit.
So the TLDR is the Australian military went to war with the emus and the emus won.
Good for you, emus.
Right?
Oh my God. That's fucking good.
My chaos story this week, sister.
Wow, sister, you find the weirdest shit and I love it.
I gotta give credit to Cy Babe. Shout out. She doesn't know who I am, so she'll never hear the shout out. But Cy Babe has a Facebook page and she has like a blog, like website or whatever. And somehow she ended up on like a suggestion for me on Facebook, and I started following her. And one of the first posts I ever read of hers on Facebook was a shortened version of this story about the emu wars, and it was hilarious and insane. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget the emu wars. So
fucking love that.
That's where that
so
came
much.
from.
Now I'll never forget the emu wars, and I don't want to. I don't want to. I was rooting for the emus the whole time.
The whole time, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
Well, sister, you got anything else for the good of the order?
Well, I mean, if anybody wants to talk to us, how do they get a hold of you or me for the podcast, Amber? Do you have like an email address or something like that?
I do. We are available at crimewineandchaos@gmail.com. We are also on Facebook and Instagram. You can DM us, and or you can reach out to Miss Nomers on Twitter.
That's right. It's at Miss Nomers, MISSGNOMERS, and follow me there for all kinds of things. I use Twitter for everything, and that's a great way to just be ridiculous together. So I love that for us.
Socials to find emu wars. So you never know.
That's right. That's right.
You never know what you're going to find on there. Awesome. Wow.
Well, thank you, Sissy. That was a good time. I mean, kind of. Your story was a fucking bummer, but I love spending time with you, even when you tell me bummer stories. So
I'm really sorry.
It's fine.
I'm really sorry.
It's fine.
Lock your doors or go outside and have a bonfire.
Go outside and have a bonfire.
Yeah,
hang out with your friends. Well, we can't do that here, but right now it's November and it's raining hard. But
yeah.
Get
a group of people and go somewhere.
Go do something with peeps that you trust. Peeps that you trust.
Peeps that you trust. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I fucking love you.
I love you too. And that was fucking chaotic.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Crime, Wine, and Chaos. The podcast art was done by Joshua M. Davis. Music by Paul Abner. You can find us on Facebook at Crime, Wine, and Chaos, on Instagram at Crime, Wine, and Chaos Pod, or check out our website at crimewineandchaos.com. Cheers!